How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you, Karen?
Great. You mentioned the last time we spoke that there would be testing either the following Friday or Monday. Have you begun that testing for COVID and for the antibodies?
We've completed it on Monday. So we did it Saturday. We did COVID testing on Saturday, COVID tested on Monday, and then antibodies as well on Monday.
And do you have the results of those, or what can you say? I mean, I know there's some privacy there, but what did you find out through this?
I can say that the process went very well. Unfortunately, due to HIPAA, I can't comment on whether someone, anybody, all were infected or not infected, but I can tell you that the process actually went really well.
Hey, Peter. Hope you're doing all right. I don't know if you got the chance to watch anything that was going on in Germany with the games in the Bundesliga and how it kind of was operated. But if you did, just your overall thoughts on kind of what you read up on how it went and how you feel MLS could take some things going from that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I watched and read some stuff on how they actually entered people in for the buildup of the game. And I'm talking about people that actually worked the game, whether it was talent crew or what have you. I kind of read up on that. I thought it was pretty interesting how they segmented everybody and coming into the facility. I thought it was pretty interesting to watch like the staffs on the sidelines, how far they were apart from each other. I just thought that was something I didn't expect, just the way I saw that. The one game where the players actually were excited about scoring a goal and they got together, and then they said afterwards that there wouldn't be any further discipline for doing that. Thought that was kind of interesting comments, but look, I think that I've seen games. I mean, I've watched games in that country, and when you go to their games, they're full stadiums, so it's completely different watching it with nobody in the stands. Changes the environment for sure. Fans make the ambiance, and that's the beauty of sports. So it misses that aspect, but it was good to see the game. And I think one of the things that you did see is that you could tell that teams were off for a little while. It was the rhythm of the game was off a little bit, but all in all, I think it's great to get started.
Did you feel that it gave anybody an advantage? Do you feel that like not having a crowd affected the game? And is there something you got to, amp your team up, calm them down? Is there something you have to do differently in managing the team?
Yeah, no, I don't think you don't have much of a home field advantage without your crowd. The fans, I think, they apply the pressure for the opposition. So I think, at least watching through the TV, it just didn't seem like didn't seem like the opponents had too much pressure on them, if you know what I mean. It just seemed like a game for them to play. But I say again that we're going to have to start somewhere, and it's not going to be perfect. We all know what perfect is, right? It's full stadiums and playing in front of your crowd and all that kind of stuff. So, but right now, we're not even close to that. So as soon as we can get close to playing those games in that environment, that's going to be for me, it's going to be a big step forward.
Peter, just to go back to the testing and to clarify on something, who was all tested? Was it just players and staff and coaches? Can you clarify there?
Players and certain people on the technical staff.
Peter, what are your thoughts on going to Orlando as a possibility, all the teams being in one place and sequestered in a way? It'd be quite an undertaking by the league. You've been around for a bit. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I know that, we're a league that speaks a lot about parity and all these other things, right? And we could have a discussion on probably all day about parity and no parity and all that. I think at the end of the day, we truly have to get back on the field as soon as we possibly can for so many reasons. Obviously, I think we have to do it in a safe way. I think the idea of going to a single location, if that's what it is, I personally am all for it. This is what I do for a profession. I know the players, it's what they do for a profession. I do agree with you. It is a huge undertaking, and logistically, it's going to be pretty difficult, right? And I think all of us are going to have to keep an open mind on the staff and the player side that it's not going to be perfect, but I think it's great to be able to get a start. I think the safest way is to do it in at least one or 3 or 4 locations. There's been a couple different models that were created. but I do think that this will probably be the most safest, and will probably at least buy us some time as some of these other cities start to open up more and more and get a chance to actually, when they return to their cities, more than likely, hopefully can return to full training based on the fact that we'll have testing figured out by then as well.
And following up on that, have you had many conversations with the players about the possibility of this happening? Is it a topic of discussion right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be absolutely lying to you if it hasn't come up in conversation. I think for them, they talk amongst each other. They chat on the phone and WhatsApp channels and all those other things. But at the same time, they you can see when they come here in their numbers and they're far away, they even say things to each other from I don't even call it social distancing. I call it one island to another, right? I mean, they're screaming to each other at times. So the bottom line is it's definitely on all of our minds. We're all thinking about it and trying to kind of manage in our minds, how do we get ready for it in all ways? Logistically, I'm sure, there's guys on teams that have wives that are pregnant. There's foreign players that are here with their families, but they don't have access to their families back home. So there's a lot of different things that we have to think about. And so, yeah, we're talking about all of those things pretty regularly.
As you've acknowledged, the format of play would look a lot different when they do find a way to make return to play happen. One of the things being thrown out in the proposals is a round robin style tournament. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages to how the certain return to play style would look when it does get back?
I think game's a game. I think the game's a game. I think the challenge for the teams is going to be the amount of time we have prior to the first game and getting the guys ready to participate in 90 minutes with obviously hotter weather than probably most of us are coming from. And it's just going to depend on the amount of time we have prior to that game. But I do think the change in the rule or the adaptation of the rule for 5 subs is going to be a huge help to offsetting some of those injuries for sure.
Can you give us an update on where you are as far as the training and when the next step is going to be taken, and maybe more close quarters where we are on that timeline?
So prior to getting on this call, I was on another, and we were talking about when is the next date regarding small group training, if you will. It's in the league's hands at the moment. I've been a part of kind of that protocol discussion, but really it's in the league's hands. I mean, the protocol and everything has been discussed. We're just now waiting on a date from them, and I wish I could tell you, but I hope it comes prior to, if we were supposed to go to Orlando, I hope it comes prior to that, but I just don't have an answer. I wish I did.
Just your thoughts on, with the NBA and MLS trying to be in the same area, how busy, do you feel that would be? And do you feel that would be not conducive that, having 2 pro leagues essentially in one campus?
I don't think it would affect it at all, because I've seen the layout of where we would be, or at least the proposed place that we would be. We'd be in our, honestly, we would be in our own bubble basically at the end of the day, and we would have no interaction with anybody else outside of that. So, we wouldn't even see those guys. Hopefully we'd see some of their games on TV. That's about it.
Peter, those conversations you've been having regarding the small group training, is there any other coaches involved, or who else?
You name it. There's CMOs, chief medical officers. There's people from the league on there. There's athletic trainers, performance analysts. Everyone is involved. It's a smattering of all different departments that are weighing in on a lot of these subjects or topics.
And does it look different, through these discussions, whether you're sticking at team facilities or, you're in cities, or whether you do go to Orlando? Do those situations look different in what the practices would look like?
Practices? So yeah, I would tell you that, we're going to have to get to full team training. If we were to go to Orlando or any other city to a tournament style, we're going to have to get to 11v11 to then be able to play 11v11. We're going to play games. So I hope they're not going to tell us that the games are no contact and you have to keep social distance from the other team. So I don't know how that would work, but we have to get to, in a short period of time, wherever we go, we're going to have to get a number of days of training with full team training. Everybody needs that to kind of get their team prepared. And again, I'm not just talking soccer. I first and foremost talk the physical and let the soccer then follow suit.
Like, how many practices a week do you get in? Does every team have every practice because there's so many people there? Or what does it look like, that structure?
I would say that's not worked out yet because there's only a certain number of fields. You'd have all your teams there, and then there would have to be a schedule that would be created for all teams to actually train. So we haven't seen that yet. Those are all things that we're still waiting on to see. Again, you got to remember that this is a possibility. We have not been told that it's confirmed. So we're getting ready as if we're going to progress to small group training, and then hopefully at some point testing will be involved, and then we're going to get involved in full team training, which eventually, hopefully, we'll be allowed to play a game in our stadium. And I don't know what that looks like, but that's how we're preparing right now, because we don't have any confirmation on anything, whether it's going to an idea like Orlando, or whether it's having 4 cities, that you're having 8 and then 3 times 6 teams in other ones. So I'm telling you, yeah, I think right now, I think you'd all agree. At this moment, you have to be able to adapt and adjust pretty quickly because things are changing all the time. And I've become very accustomed to that. I think I used to think that way. And since this all has taken place, I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes things can change from 1 hour to the next, or a couple hours in the day. And then all of a sudden you go 3 days and nothing changes. So we've tried to keep our guys focused on the fact that we're taking the first step of a few in front of us to eventually get to full team training. And we just got to keep doing things the right way so that safety's, taken care of. The second is physically, we're doing a good job in progressing the guys. And then whatever comes our way, hopefully we'll be prepared for that.
Peter, kind of going off of how the fitness and kind of rating that progress, how would you assess that right now? And do you feel like the guys are on track with where you would want them to be at this point in the individual workouts?
It's a good question. I would say that I'd probably answer the question a little differently. And I'd say that the guys have a really good attitude in the days that they come here and they work out. Like, again, today they're off. They're doing a yoga Zoom call. But when they're here, the guys have good attitude and they work really hard. What's difficult is that there's one thing to have a good foundation of fitness. The other part is how fast does that translate into playing the game where you're competing against somebody, and then how fast is your recovery to go again? And that's what soccer is. Soccer is like this. It's this quick action, and then you get a second to rest, and you got to go again. And that's going to be the only way you get that is by playing against someone. And none of us have that ability to do that. So I don't know. It's just going to be, a lot of this is going to be dependent on how fast the guys can translate whatever fitness they have now into, a game situation.
Peter, are your players housed in groups, such as in a team house, 3-4 players at once, that they were social isolating themselves, but they could still get out and do things together? So they would at least have some continuity and competition going on.
Are we talking in Kansas City or somewhere else?
In Kansas City, wherever they are now, if they're not all in town as yet.
Yeah, so basically everybody's here. Everybody's in their normal residences, whether it's an apartment, a house, or what have you. And basically they're living their lives. What part of our protocol is every day is that once they leave us, so if we have training in the morning, so they leave us, let's say that night before they go to bed, they get a questionnaire sent to them and they have to answer it. It's digital. So they have to answer the questionnaire, and it asks questions like, where have you traveled outside of to and from your home to practice, basically. So then we ask all those questions and they have to respond. And I would say that our guys are really good about doing it. And then what it does is it gives us a roadmap of what they've done. So if a guy's going to a grocery store, okay, we get it. But if he went out and played, poker with 5 other guys, that's a problem, sitting around somebody's house. And we're monitoring that as a part of the comings and going every day of training, because what we can't have is a guy all of a sudden thinking because the plaza's opened up, he now can go out to O'Dowd's and then show up the next day. And now he's going to, even though we have social distancing, We just don't want that to be a case. So we're doing our best, and I think the guys are doing a great job. And so when they wake up in the morning, they have to actually fill out another questionnaire that talks about how do they feel, and if they have any symptoms, which we list out, that also triggers something else if they answer yes to any of those things. So what I'd say is from a gathering of information into what their daily routine is, I think we got a pretty good handle on where they are, and also they understand the importance of them still maintaining this, this environment, because it's not just that would affect them, it would affect the team as well.
Going back to Bundesliga in Germany, that seems to be one of the countries or the leagues, I guess, where you have the most contact or, contacts with coaches. Have you talked to anyone there about what it's been like getting back to the point of playing, full games?
So look, I've talked to a lot of people around the world, and there's all kinds of different things going on. I think that everybody has their challenges. The other thing is that in some respects, I think we're really lucky in the United States, to be honest with you, and Major League Soccer. The reason being is because we have a coordinated effort, and we have a set of standards that everybody's trying to follow. And I don't mean this disrespectfully to any of the other countries. I just think that in a lot of the other countries, you're kind of a standalone club, right? We got a different business model for our sport. And so we have a central location, centralized, governing body, which is the league. And so a lot of stuff does go through them. And, for all intents and purposes, I think it's made for the right rollout that we currently sit in. And so, yeah, do I talk to those guys? Yes. But the problem is it's very hard to compare, because all of them are doing different things. So it's hard to compare apples to apples. What I would say is that I've had a couple different ways of even just seeing small group training. I've heard it where they've done a test in the beginning of the week, and then they didn't do any other testing until they figured that somebody might be sick. And then if they tested that guy and he was sick, then they test, everyone else. Then I've also heard people doing tests once a week, the beginning and the end of the week. So really it's like the beginning and the start of the next week. So I've heard of all different ways. And I would say that other than testing somebody every single day and basically locking them in a room and never allowing them to go someplace, I just don't know how you completely cut everybody off from everything.
Peter, one of the things that looks like it's going to be an issue for sports like baseball is the relationship between the union, the association, and ownership. How would you characterize, I know it's a different setup in MLS with the league owning it, but do you think that relationship will be a stumbling block at all compared to just the logistical stuff and the testing and all that?
I'm going to answer more and say, I hope not. Like, I hope we're all working towards getting back onto the field. That's what I would say. It's really hard, Todd, for me to answer the question, only because I really, truly am not privy to those conversations. The league does it's very calculated to keep all of us as individual teams away from those conversations, and more importantly, the information. And, I can be pretty aggressive on things, but it's one issue that I completely stay away from, just because I know that it's a closed loop and I'm not getting in. And so if they're not asking me, I'll let them figure it out. But what I would say is that I hope everybody is working towards the same goal, and that is getting onto the field as fast as we can. And I always say that and couch that with, look, I'm not suggesting that, we do things that are unsafe and all those other things. I just am more of the mindset of, if it's testing, then let's go figure it out and let's go do it, right? If it's acquiring tests, that's the problem. Well, then let's figure out, what is the issue there? Is it that we don't have enough tests, or it's just trying to figure it out and move on. That's where I'm at. And so when I look at all that, I'll say it again. What I hope is that we're all moving towards trying to get back to what we normally do as quick as possible, and knowing full well that it's not going to be perfect, that we need to start moving towards it.
Peter, I'm going to preface this with saying, obviously, we know the most important thing is that the return to play happens safely with, the concern of the well-being of everyone put first and foremost. But there's been a lot of discussion, in the MLS community about how great it would be for soccer if they can not just get back to playing, but maybe be one of the first and only teams playing. We talk about MLS 3.0, the return to play, and how important it is for soccer, not just to, for all the financial reasons and reasons of advancing the league, but, going forward, the impact Major League Soccer could have with viewership and all of those things. What's your kind of perspective on that, or thought on not just getting soccer back, but being quick to get it back?
So I think it would be great to be first. At the same time, I don't think that we should be first just to be first and then make a bunch of mistakes. So I maintain that we have to be very thorough about what it is that we're going to do. At the same time, it's also, when you're in situations like this, you can be very critical of what other people are doing or how they're doing it. But I also think that at some point, some people have to make some decisions. And when the decisions are made, I think we all have to work towards making it work. It's not just right away going, we can't do that, or, that's not going to work, or then we got to provide other solutions. And so again, that has to be the focus. It's not the other. And so, yeah, would I love to be first? Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. It's probably a little bit of the competitor in me as well that would like it that way. But it's not for the sake of having a bad plan.
Coach, if players came in reasonably fit, you'll get them fit hopefully before you head out to, let's just say it's Orlando. How much time once there, full team, full field, do you need to get them now to match fitness, would you say?
Gosh, I think if you could get, and we've done this before, I think if you could get, and again, I don't know what the dates are, so it's a little bit difficult. I don't know when the first game is, and I don't know when we leave here, and do we get the small group training, but I'm going to say it would be nice to have no less than 2, but if you could get 3 weeks of full team training, I think you would put yourself in a pretty good place to play a game. Now, would it be perfect? Absolutely not. And nobody would suggest that that's the way they would want to do it all the time. But in this current situation, I think it's possible. If you just look at us a year ago, we were able to get our team up and running for the CONCACAF side of it. The difference is that in those games, we need to win right away. I'm not saying that we wouldn't have to win these, but these would be more like regular season games. And the teams that we're playing against are coming in at the same place we are. When we were playing against the Mexican teams last year, the problem was that they've already played 2/3 of their season, 3/4 of the season, and we haven't even played a game yet. That is the big difficulty. So I would say that you could probably get a team up and running and play a game, and the 5 subs are really going to help with 2 to 3 weeks somewhere in there of full team training.
Hey, just out of curiosity, I mean, the players have been getting paid this whole time, correct? I mean, they haven't had, because the big topic in baseball is money. And that's kind of one of the things, in addition to health, that is keeping us from getting that ball rolling. And that doesn't seem to be a problem with you guys.
Everything that I know, yes, they've been getting paid the whole time.
And there was never talk of that?
I know what I've read in the papers as well, that there's been discussions around that, but as far as I know, right now, all the players are getting paid their full entire salary that they signed their contracts for.
And so what have you heard from them? I mean, I know they're out there by themselves. Now they're back and they're getting their temperatures checked and they've gotten tested and they're going through protocol. Are you sensing an anxiousness now that these first few steps have been made to speed it up, or are they just thrilled to be in the first step and they seem to be patient with the way things are going? How would you gauge the response of the team to this first phase?
Well, I think the guys have been really good. Attitude's been great. They've worked really hard, but I think they're looking forward to getting on to where they can start competing against each other. It's in their nature. It's who they are. But the good thing is that none of the guys have been, how should I say this? They haven't been trying to rush us. They know the steps that we have to go through. So that's the way we've been dealing with it.
You have another video coming up? Peter,
no, I hope
part 2?
not, because it takes too long to put all that stuff together. But it helped. It for sure helped. But I'm hoping that that's not going to have to be the case moving into these next phases, because I think everybody has a really good picture of what could be done.